Hey, what's up, everybody? This is your boy, Philip Enriquez with the Say What You Like Sports Podcast. Just trying something new here on YouTube. Trying a little visual with the audio that we're known for in the podcast. YouTube, the channel isn't so big here on YouTube, but we're growing and growing fast in the podcast forms. We're available on many platforms, so I'll start by introing you to that in case you don't listen to the audio and you do just listen to the podcast on YouTube. It's probably a little bit easier in audio format. So right there you go. Those are just some of the places you can find the podcast. You can basically find the Say What You Like Sports Podcast anywhere that podcasts can be found. But do me a favor, if you like any of the content on the Say What You Like Sports Podcast, whether it's the Cowboys content, the 49ers content, the Gridiron Fights, NFL debate shows that we do, if you enjoy any of that, I would just ask a little favor, a small favor, take a few minutes out of your day, get onto Apple Podcast or iTunes and give me a 5-star review or whatever you feel I deserve. Review. It really goes a long way to grow the podcast, and the podcast is growing strong. So please, and also sub me up on YouTube if you haven't. I'm not growing so strong on YouTube, but maybe, it's an audio and visual format, so maybe this visual will help grow that too. So hit me up on Twitter as well. It's all there for you. So what I wanted to do was just kind of, since this is sort of my test run, just kind of not talk a little bit about the Cowboys, but talk about how I became a Cowboys fan. So I've been a hardcore Cowboys fan since 1992, baby. And, I was about 9 years old or so. And back in that time, I was more of a basketball fan. I was a big-time Charlotte Hornets fan. Muggsy Bogues was my hero, man. Shout out to the little guy. Larry Johnson, Grandma Ma, Lonzo Mourning. That was my team. But I was still not 100% a part of Cowboys Nation at that time. You see, my two favorite NFL players at that time that really shaped my young fandom in the NFL, my two favorite players were Dan Marino and Michael Irvin. I mean, I loved the way these two played. I thought they were far and away the best players in the NFL, quite frankly. And but at the time, what really tipped the scale away from the Dolphins and towards the Cowboys and Michael Irvin, who now is my all-time favorite player, was in 92. The Cowboys were in the Super Bowl, played at the Rose Bowl, and won their first Super Bowl of the 90s, third Super Bowl overall. And, right before that, as you guys may or may not know, I'm a Southern California boy. I live right outside of Los Angeles, and so there was a lot of activities all week long leading up to the Super Bowl. The media was out there. There's lots of things to do out there. There's games and prizes. Just the NFL was promoting the Super Bowl in Pasadena, my backyard. So I attended some of those things, and I remember my uncle getting me a little pack of cards that was the 1992 Dallas Cowboys team set. And man, it was on. I mean, this was a young, exciting, up-and-coming team. They had just beat the 49ers in the 92 NFC Championship game. My family was talking about it. My dad, my grandpa, my aunt, everybody, my grandma, my uncles. They were all talking about, whoa, the Cowboys, man. They done beheaded the 49ers, the previous team of the 80s, and they're looking like the young team of the 90s. So I just went with it. And I just seen the passion that Michael Irvin would have on the sidelines, and I'd be like, yeah, that's it. That's my boy, Michael Irvin. Just that guy that could just rally the troops when it was looking all bad and just come out all good in the end, And that's really what begun my fandom as a Dallas Cowboys in those early 90s, man. And then, that 93 team was even better in 93 than they were in 92. I think that 93 team is possibly one of the greatest NFL football teams of all time. I'd put them up against anybody. The 2007 Patriots, those 70s Steelers, those 80s Niners. I mean, give me the 93 Cowboys and I'll ride with them. That's just the way I look at it. I was heartbroken in 94, and then, Switzer gave me a scare, but he did all right and got us our last Super Bowl, and, well, it's been one hell of a roller coaster ride ever since. But, yeah, that's basically how I became, or what really made me a hardcore Cowboys fan. I haven't missed a game since, I want to say, I think it was the 2001 season, where I used to work retail. Big Five Sporting Goods, shout out to Big Five Sporting Goods, and I think they scheduled me on a Sunday, and I missed a game back then. But I haven't missed a game since. Hardcore fan. I get the all 22, review some of the tape, the game, the coach's tape. I mean, I watch and rewatch games that I record on TV. I'm just looking up all the stats. I'm not so big of a stat guy. I really do try to really get the feel for the game and the way these players react in pressure situations, and things like I really do that because take for instance, if you guys haven't seen on YouTube or heard on the podcast our first episode of Gridiron Fights, it's been a while. We did that a couple of years back now, but Steve Young versus Troy Aikman, which was a really good podcast, a really good show, guys. There's a lot of highlights. If you guys want to check it out, just scroll on down on the channel. You will find Gridiron Fights. And, when you look at Steve Young versus Troy Aikman, Steve Young, he's got all the statistics. He's by far the better statistical player. More touchdowns, fewer interceptions, great highlight plays. At first glance, one would think it would be easy to see Steve Young as a superior player. But I remember watching football in the 90s, and Troy Aikman was the ultimate leader. I think he was even better in pressure situations. He has much better statistics in the postseason, way better postseason, performances in my opinion. Steve Young had his games, but there were not so many. Troy Aikman was one of the best playoff quarterbacks in the big games. And what people don't understand is Emmitt Smith was the engine of that 90s Cowboys offense, but Troy Aikman was the driver, and he always got that game going. They often softened up the run defense by a few big plays early on in the game, and Troy Aikman, just game managed, made the throws he had to on third down with Novacek and Irvin, and he did his thing. He didn't care about the stats. He cared about winning. So, back to my point, it's not all about stats. I know that Troy Aikman could make a big play whenever he wanted. And you see those games. You can see some statistics where, whoa, Troy Aikman threw for 455 yards in a playoff game? Oh, he was the 1992 Super Bowl MVP? 4 touchdowns? Didn't even want to finish out the fourth quarter? He could have had the record that Young had. He just said, hey, I just want the ring. So, I'm the type of fan that really looks at the flow of the game and see how these players react more than stats. I think stats, just are how the game played out. They do matter, but not all stats. Not every yard is created equal. Not every touchdown even is created equal. They are all 7 points. They all count in that sense. But you know what? Does that player play better in that 2-minute drill? In the clutch? Does he give you that feeling like, hey, we got this? You know that feeling. Like when Tom Brady is running the 2-minute drill and your defense is on the field and you're just like, we're fucked. That's great, in my opinion. And there's no statistic that can change that because I'm watching that game. I'm seeing the flow of the game and I know who's in control. So that's me, guys. I just wanted to, chill out here on YouTube, put a little visual to the audio, and you know what? Hopefully this ends out decent enough. Sub up to the channel on YouTube. Please hit me up on the podcast where we're growing strong. Leave me those reviews, and you know what? Leave a voice message on Anchor. It's usually going to be in most of my podcast descriptions. So hit me up. Let's grow this thing. Say what you like, baby. Peace. I'm not recording. You're fucking kidding me. Oh, no, I am. All right.
Later on.